Hi, this is the Tempter Podcast, where we discuss embedded Linux, IoT development, and anything else we might find interesting. Your hosts today are Kem Raj and Cliff Bragg. How you doing, Kem?
I'm doing fine, Cliff. How about you?
Yeah, it's been another good week. So what's the big question for today here?
Hey, today the big question is, do you own your platform? So we want to kind of talk about what a platform is, and what are some of its properties. How products weave into it, and then leave it to our audience to decide.
Sure. So as we think about platforms, what do you think of when you think of a platform? What is that, and what are some examples?
So if you go out there on the internet, it's full of various definitions, um, and in some cases, platforms and products are used interchangeably. But I think there is a very stark difference. So if you look at a product, it is built to meet certain specific requirements or functionality, to achieve a certain purpose, or in terms of functionality, and end user does not care how it is built as long as it works to those specifications and end user satisfaction. A platform, on the other hand, is a collection of modules and maybe even tools, and they are loosely related, but they can be put together with a definition, kind of a definition, to define a product, for example, or a service. So what I see is that a platform is extensible, it is programmable, and it consists of reusable pieces of code, or components. It's actually open set of components. So users do care very much about the platform and how it is designed.
So the platform is kind of the technology or the base technology that you build your product on, and the pieces that kind of go into your product as you build a device.
Right.
And I'm just trying to think of an example. So like a smartphone might be the product, but Android might be a platform that was used to build the product, or something like that, or the Linux kernel.
Very well said. Yes. So there are, like, those examples you cited are exactly the difference, where you may have Android as a platform, but then you may have Pixel, which is actually a product that basically is built on top of Android.
Sure. So now that we've kind of gone over that, what are some desirable qualities that you see in a platform?
So as platform essentially is actually a living being to a certain extent, right? So and then there are certain things that it evolves into, but then there are certain aspects of it which are always required or are basically inherent to it. And for example, availability, right? Is this technology available? Is it easily available? Like, can we get it? Or
Sure.
it could be stability, right? And it could be, does it perform well for what we are putting it together for? Um, how easy it is to fix it when it breaks, because things will break all the time. And I like it, the adaptability of it, right? Because today, in a lot of places, products are short-lived, right? And then they change. You may have a phone with a different screen size. In 6 months it may be something else. So how adaptable it is? Is it customizable, or what are the features? Can it adapt to those features in future? So these are some of the ones I can think of. How about you? What do you see from your point of view on the platform priorities?
Sure. I guess if we go back to availability, with the component shortages we see today, that's a huge issue
Hmm.
for a lot of companies that build their products around a certain processor or other major pieces of silicon that you can't just easily swap it out for another piece of silicon. So
Hmm.
that's an example where the system on chip or the processor is part of your platform, and if that's not available anymore, or you don't have an easy way to move your device to another processor, then you're kind of stuck. And we see that now with automobiles and pretty much any type of equipment. They can't get engines for them or electronics, so they're just being built and stuck in lots until they can get the electronics and sell them.
Yeah.
So the the other thing I think about with the platform is, it's a lot of stuff, and when we build a product today, we can't do everything from the ground up, so we have to start with a lot of other stuff. It can come from open source projects, it can come from vendors providing components or operating systems or code or whatever. So we have all this stuff, and then for most of us, the parts of the system that we write or create are a small percentage of the overall system as far as engineering effort. And one analogy I've used before is the iceberg analogy, where most of it's underwater, and I call that the platform or whatever you started with, and then the part you're working on is just this little bit you see above water. But if you don't have some control over the invisible parts, it can really slow you down or stop you. So
Yeah.
that's just what I've seen in my experience. It's real tempting to try to find somebody who can just solve all your problems and just make it all go away, like, use a third party solution, or that we don't have to get our hands dirty with any of this platform stuff. But
Hmm.
it's at some point we have to deal with it. We have to kind of understand what's there. We don't need to create it all or even touch it most of the time, but we can't really predict where we're going to run into problems or where we're going to need to customize pieces of it. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think um, there was actually a term. I think it was Professor Clayton Christensen. I think
mhm.
the innovator solution. So it says that the value is actually created when people rearrange the existing economic systems and processes into ways that are more and more beneficial to them. That's the value, right? And if you go by that, platform offers you exactly the Lego building blocks that you can then put together and like get those innovative solutions out there.
Yeah, it's surprisingly amounts of good value can be derived just from combining different things together.
Hmm.
But I feel like it has to be that. It has to be where you're doing something. You're not just building something on top of one piece. You have to combine different things or do something that's a little bit unique and adds value. And
Hmm.
as a bigger company gets, they can afford to create more and more of the platform. An example might be Apple. They've
Hmm.
created almost all of their platform, at least the major pieces of it, where other companies, they just don't have the resources to do that. So they more combine different pieces.
Yeah.
And those of us who work with smaller organizations, we're using more and combining more.
Right.
So one thing as an architect like you, um, one of our jobs is to select the right technology. So how do you go about that? Because selecting the right pieces of your platform is important. So you have any tips for how you approach that, or?
Oh, it's a very difficult question, and it's a good one. And many times um, you apply certain testable methods and ways, maybe read about it, talk to people and come to those conclusions. One thing that I see is important is that not to have bias.
Hmm.
So many a times, people have the solution in mind, and they try to then grow that into the platform solution, and it might fit into a product to a certain extent. But products, as I said, are short-lived, and it might be fine, but platform, if you make a wrong choice, it'll show on you every day. And so unless you do it correct, you'll have to keep working on it, and that is also a good thing. So from platform, one thing I find very very interesting is that if it's evolving, so you are working on one piece at a time, and you could do a good job of one piece and then do other piece, and likewise you can put it together. One thing I see is it's good to depend on standards. So I can give you an example, like, say if you're doing, C, C++, then, and it's a coding example, of course, but, it's better for you to choose a particular standard that you want to code to, and not let the platform be coded in a standard that is specific to a given compiler, or that kind of locks you in into one technology underneath, for
So you're
example.
thinking of proprietary extensions or pragmas or whatever in a compiler that would
Hmm.
make it non-portable to other processors or whatever.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So selecting a right technology is very very important, and then using it in right proportions is also very important. That you want to remain, as much as um, interoperable as much you can. And if we don't have that, then the platform will be built on roots that are not strong, and it would eventually die. So it's very important that for you to see what you want to put in there um, in terms of technology, and then you should like continuously look for improving it, right? So what is new developments you want to do? Um, Essentially, it's very important to do a lot of investigations ahead of time and with open mind, as I said. Don't go in with a solution in mind and try to fit it in. Sure, you are smart, you will fit it in, but it won't scale. It won't become a platform. So it's not about that. People may say I'm not a network engineer, and so that's not really necessary that you know everything. Like, yeah, there are a few folks like that, but you don't have to be that know it all person. But you should have people that you can reach out to and you can discuss, right? So then it becomes important that is your network, your connected network, available to you to help out? Can you reach out to experts, right? Um, and get the information that you need to select those technologies.
Yes, and that's what I feel is one of the big benefits of a community. Yeah, things are so complex today. We definitely can't know everything about all things. But if we know who to ask, that's really the superpower in this age. To be connected with people that do know answers and can give you good advice, and just kind of be tuned in to what's going on, listening to people who have domain expertise in certain areas. A lot of people write on blogs or other mediums and provide good information. So there's tons of resources. It's more just a matter of figuring out um,
Mhm.
who these experts are, who do we need to be connected to, filtering out all the noise and getting feeds of good high quality information. So
Absolutely. And if you look at why open source projects and communities are successful in creating those platforms. And sometimes people always associate platforms with open source, even though that's not true. But at least that those technologies are feeding in, because there's open collaboration kind of gives you this opportunity to network with people who are experts in certain areas more easily than you would otherwise have an opportunity.
Yeah. So we've talked a bit about having some amount of control over your platform,
Mm-hmm.
and there's really two aspects of that. One is to solve problems when things go wrong, and the other is to be able to take the platform where it needs to go for your products. And your platform, parts of it you may be building yourself, or
Mm-hmm.
you may be customizing parts of existing platforms. But either way, there's really two aspects. One is damage control, and the other is moving things forward. And
Mm-hmm.
I think both of those are important to consider.
Correct. Absolutely. I think I lean on the second part. Essentially, progressively moving the platform and addressing, iterating faster helps you quite a lot. So if you kind of focus towards that, then most of the times, damage control would take care of itself as well.
Mhm.
But more than often, do have to do both.
Yeah, I know you're a big advocate of staying current with things, and the O distribution. We now do monthly releases that are from the tip of open embedded and various meta layers. So yeah, I can see you live it and you walk it in your work every day, that you try to keep things moving forward, and at, at the at the tip of where open source development is. So
Yeah, yeah. I think eventually it kind of rolls in a lot of good value into the flow.
mhm.
And what I see is that the amount of time folks have, there's a lot of value that gets added that way. And I guess if it is compounded by a lot of testing, especially CI, more and more CI, how much you can test, it's never enough.
Mhm.
It just improves the quality, and it just makes you that 10x more productive.
So one aspect of building your own platform is to be able to reuse it, in multiple products. That's really where you can leverage what you've done in the past, is if you can reuse it. And so to do that, things like build systems are very important. Automation, continuous integration, building things that are
Mhm.
flexible, and really that's pretty much, with the Yo distribution, which is built on Yocto, and other efforts we're involved in, Simple IoT and other things. We're trying to produce platforms that are reusable and flexible for a wide range of developments.
Absolutely. Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier on, right, platforms, they are recomposable, right? So you basically, so they don't scale but like in a vertical manner, they scale horizontal, and that is the power. And you mentioned about build systems, right? Very critical. Can you have like a build system that can churn out your different products, right? That may not be similar with each other, but can you reuse those build systems to do the work effectively, right? That's a win. Similarly, can you reuse certain parts of technology that you deploy in there, right? It could be your operating system, it could be your middleware layer. So, for example, Simple IoT, can like what the Simple IoT has this concept of modules where you can basically have modules integrated with it, that it can work with different protocols. Um, that to me is a platform, right? I may select one, someone else may select three, but in the end, the platform is enabling you in both cases. And and it could be just me doing two different products and selecting different parts of the platform to be reused. One aspect I would like to add there is a lot of it. There is a lot of upfront discipline that goes into this.
Mhm.
And a lot of times people miss it out and they always say, I'm creating a platform for others. And that's a very big misnomer. When you create a platform, it's a platform for others for sure, but also for you. So, what that means is when you are building your own platform or your own products on top, you respect the APIs in the same way that you expect others to respect when they are interacting with your platform or when they are kind of like using your platform. So APIs as a contract become very important, like how much you respect them um, makes your platform much more scalable.
Sure. Can you give us an example where maybe that wasn't done and some of the problems it caused?
Nothing like comes to my mind on top, or rather, I probably wouldn't want to call out, but
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of a negative topic.
yeah,
So,
yeah, but it has happened where you didn't do a good job of, for example, doing telemetry or something like that.
hmm
And so as your platform, or rather the use cases of your platform exploded, you suddenly start seeing you have like six different ways of collecting data for telemetry from your platform. And you are basically, whoever is deploying your platform, those devices are spending this compute cycles for just doing this duplicate work in many cases, right?
hmm
So in my opinion, that's a bad design at that
Sure.
point. But on the positive side, it offers you an opportunity to unify, because it's a platform, it's not a product. So if you can make sure that your services and your platform can deal with, say, a single pipe or something like that, then you can do that on the platform and kind of reinvent the platform to do it.
What about cost? Do you have any thoughts on cost or how you should think about cost in this whole platform versus product
Mhm.
mindset?
Yeah, I think it is a very important um, piece, and I think in the way people are set up, they do product costs most of the time, right? So you have bill of materials, and so there's a very good tracking, and all those things fall in place. But platforms are enablers, right? So there is no revenue associated with them right away. Revenue is still coming from your products, right? Platforms are enabling you for that.
Mhm.
So a smart product manager, works with his architects and comes up with tangible values of the platform. So you still have to do, the financials around products, but it's upfront cost that you do on platform that you will basically not see a result right away,
Mhm.
into your products. Lot of times you will do things like maybe defining a HAL layer, and you say, hey, there's only me using it, why do I need a HAL layer, right?
Yeah.
So there is that kind of cost that builds in into your your design at that point when you are evolving the platform. However, your vision is that if I'm spending X amount now and I'm spending another X for my product two, I would be probably spending half the X. So if I then do some work upfront, then my cost for my scaling this platform into different products will be very less.
So it's kind of the long term versus short term thinking. If you're thinking only
Mm-hmm.
product, you're thinking short term,
Mm-hmm.
and then each new product takes huge amounts of effort. But if you're thinking long term or platform, then each iteration becomes less and less costly as you get to leverage the things you've done before.
Mm-hmm.
What one example I think of are the embedded Linux systems we've developed over the years. Embedded Linux is complex. It takes a good bit of work up front to get the system running. But what I've observed is these products or these platforms, they live for 10 or more years, and people just keep adding features and more features to the product or variants of the product. but that underlying platform doesn't really change much. You have a embedded Linux system running on a SoC that's stable, that doesn't change. You have an update system that doesn't change much over the years. You have a way to deploy updates, and if you can just keep building on that product and adding features, because the platform is so extensible, you can really do a lot. Whereas a more constrained platform like an MCU with an RTOS, which may only have a megabyte or two of application code space, the first application, you may have plenty of space, but if you develop over 10 years, pretty soon you'll fill up that limited space, or it may not have the features or drivers for some new protocol or device that you want to interface to.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that's an MCU would be an example of a more constrained type platform, or embedded Linux. It's just wide open. And again, there's good reasons to use either one in different scenarios. And
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, in platforms, what I see is there are primarily, I guess, two kind of platforms, right? One is where it's a transaction-based platform, that we are building these days, Facebooks and WhatsApps and whatnot, right? Twitters, and then the other ones are the innovation platforms. And what we have been kind of, talking about more on are on the innovation side, and of course, they definitely fuel you up into futures, provided you do the right decisions based upon your platform choices.
mhm.
So, so you talk about like your personal platforms. What is a personal platform?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, thinking about this, it kind of occurred to me that maybe some of these thoughts, we've been talking mainly about a company developing a product and maintaining a platform, but personally, we can apply some of these same ideas. We all have experiences, we have skills, and we have things we can do. If you can reuse some of these over time to keep learning, to keep developing, and combine these different skills to do valuable things,
Mm-hmm.
it's where I think we can really leverage what we've done in the past. And for me, part of that is just writing down stuff I've learned. Every time I learn something I feel significant, and I put it in my list, and then I review it occasionally. One thing I've been trying to do more lately is if I help somebody with something, instead of just emailing them, oh, this is how you do this, I put it in some type of documentation that's going to be long lived, and then I share that documentation with them. So that's
Mm-hmm.
that's just an example where I'm kind of building what I know into a platform that can be reused and
Yeah.
hopefully beneficial to many others long term, versus one email that soon goes into the black hole of your email inbox and is never seen again. So
Yeah. Yeah. They say that email is where information goes to die.
yeah. Yeah, it's very useful but I it's not for long lived information for sure.
Yeah. Very well said. I think the personal platforms, you could be a blogger, and you could be a writer, it could be different things. And so kind of pay attention to what is your platform for being productive.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be, a combination of technologies and practices. And so, that will be your platform. Superb. So I know we started with this question: do you own your platform? So now, having discussed about this, I'll put this again that, this question may sound funny, ridiculous, because, you know, no one company can own all the technology except Apple, maybe. But um, how do you kind of like extend your own platform? It will basically, how far you can go with your platform will determine your success and your destiny, I guess.
Yeah, I think owning your platform is more of a mindset versus like an absolute reality.
Mm-hmm.
And if you approach product development with with kind of a hands-off approach, which says I just want everyone else to do everything and solve all my problems, and I don't want to get my hands dirty with understanding a lot of the details, then that's kind of an approach where I feel like you won't be able to add a lot of unique value. And I feel that's one reason open source is so successful, because we can take these huge engineering works and developments and we can use them, but we can also be a part of them. We can participate in the community, we can provide input, we can actually fix bugs if we want, or add features. It's the opportunity is at least there for us. Many of us won't take it, but that again, it's just a mindset thing. Do we want to use technologies where we can be part of that technology if we choose to?
Mm-hmm. Very well said. Very well said. And I think with this, we will leave the listeners. Do you own your platform? And so perhaps we'll continue. There is a open source aspect of platform, in terms of technology, and that's very interesting as well. And I think there's a whole different aspect to the platforming that has developed over past 10, 20, 30 years. And I think maybe in a follow-up, we will discuss more on that aspect as well. So
yeah, and I think also maybe some experiences on how to create and maintain a platform, I think would be fun to discuss too. So yeah, great thoughts. And if you thanks for listening. If you have any feedback, please reach out to us in any way you can. We're available many different places, so feel free to contact us or share this. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.